Welcome to the second of 4 public comment meeting opportunities that DPR has created to receive your comments on their draft strategic plan. I was going to throw it to Carlos. Carlos, are we already good?
I think we're good. You want me to announce it one last time? Sure. I can do it from here. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. We do have interpretation headsets. In the event that there are any Spanish-speaking comments that will be interpreted simultaneously through the headsets. So if you'd like one, we have them right up here at the door, or you can just raise your hand on the radio. Una vez más, tenemos interpretación simultánea. Si alguien necesita el servicio y aún no tiene su receptor, tenemos aquí en la mesa de afuera, o simplemente levante la mano y la acercamos con usted. Gracias.
We doing okay on the sound now? Okay. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to set the foundation, share how this plan came to be, present the work done so far, and then receive and listen to your feedback. You may have noticed that we have copies of the strategic plan in Spanish and English over in the front. After the presentation, I'm going to open the listening session where your remarks, 2 minutes apiece, will be received. There's written comments that are accepted online, plus we do have the box in the back as well. At the end, our presenter is going to recap what was said. So my name's Sherry Petro, and that gentleman over there is Scott Sugo. We're from a company called BPI Strategies, where we help organizations improve and ensure all voices are heard. DPR is seeking your feedback on this draft plan, and whether you agree or disagree, all comments are received, whether similar or different. All viewpoints are welcome. So this is not the only way we gather feedback, right? We have it online plus what's in the back. But let's just get to it. DPR Chief Deputy Director and Science Advisor, Karen Morrison, is going to be talking about the vision, the process, the goals, and the timeline on the draft strategic plan. Karen?
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for spending the time with us this afternoon. It's going to be a maybe 15-minute presentation, and we'll open up for comment. We really want to make sure we have time to hear from all of you over the course of today and throughout the broader comment period on the draft strategic plan. I do want to acknowledge there's a number of DPR staff who are here who are also supporting, so if you need assistance with anything, we have David Moss up front, who is our note taker for today, to make sure we're capturing all of the spoken comments. We have Anastasia Warner out front, Celia Pazos in the back, Leah Bailey on the side, and Frank Cassidy taking pictures in the back. So if you need help from any one of those folks, please don't hesitate to reach out. We really want to make sure that we're addressing any issues as they come up over the course of our time together. So again, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to engage with us on our strategic planning process as we look forward to the next 5 years. This is a different process than what we did 5 years ago for our last strategic plan. We're really looking toward thinking about how we consider pest management into the future and to create a plan that is specific, that is measurable, that will hold us accountable as we're looking forward into the coming 5 years. The strategic plan recognizes that pest management practices and decisions have broad impacts on human health, social equity, the environment, and the economy. We know, for example, that pest management is critical in agriculture to support a stable, healthy food supply for all Californians. It's also critical in maintaining public infrastructure and public health. But we also know that the way that pest management is performed can influence outcomes for all Californians, and that we need to be able to effectively and efficiently respond to emerging science on the impact of pesticides, particularly relative to the disproportionate use in disadvantaged communities, communities of color, and fragile ecosystems. At the same time, we also want to be supporting innovation and investment in the development and adoption of alternative methods to manage pests, and to address those pest pressures in agriculture, urban and rural communities, and in our wildlands. And so our vision is that the measurable goals that are included in this strategic plan will increase accountability and transparency for all of our partners, stakeholders, the public, community members, and tribes in the department's actions, and that we want to strengthen and supplement our existing programs with stable funding to implement our programmatic responsibilities and to align this approach with a vision for sustainable pest management on a system-wide scale. So again, the feedback collected today, as Sherry mentioned, in all the different ways that we are doing that, will be open through November 10th and will be used to inform our priorities and timelines and identify resources needed to achieve those goals. So before we get into the details of the plan itself, I want to provide a little bit of context on the goals by giving a brief overview of the department's work and what we do. Our work on pesticides spans everything from prior to a pesticide being used in the state to once it has been introduced to track and make sure that those products are being used appropriately and safely. This starts in a process called registration, where we are looking at evaluating impacts from pesticides prior to when they can be sold or used in the state, where we are looking at human health and environmental impacts, and then can either register that product with specific conditions or refuse registration on that product. Those conditions are on the label of a pesticide and are legally required to be followed in order to be used in the state. We also then recognize that we want to be continuing to reflect different kinds of use, different science that emerges over time, and so we continue to evaluate use of pesticides once they've been introduced into the state, to evaluate impacts, emerging science, to consider the data that we're collecting in air, soil, water, and to be able to use that to inform our next steps. We work closely with the county agricultural commissioners on the ground in every county in California. I want to appreciate their representation here today on the enforcement of pesticide use laws and regulations. We provide guidance to the commissioners on their work around conducting inspections and investigations, and they are a really critical element of the system to make sure that the local conditions within specific counties are considered and they are able to really make sure that we're enforcing those requirements in every county. We also have programs dedicated to fostering safer approaches to pest management, as well as looking at worker health and safety around pesticide use that includes both regulatory work and outreach to farm workers and other pesticide handlers. So, our 2024-2028 strategic plan is intended to build on the work we are already doing to incorporate recommendations from the collaboratively developed Sustainable Pest Management Roadmap, as well as conversations across all partners and impacted stakeholders on what is needed to effectively achieve our mission. The regular engagement and dialogue with regulated local and impacted communities is critical to informing our work as we think about how we move forward. So our team has been working on the strategic plan since earlier this year to create the draft that we're going to be talking about and hearing from all of you today. As I said, this process was informed by the recommendations in the SPM roadmap. There's a one-pager on that in the front. If you didn't grab that coming in, it's a good consolidated version of what is in the document that the group put together. And also want to acknowledge we have a few folks who were on that work group who are here today, so thank you for that. But we also recognize that was a small group of conversations, and so the strategic plan is further informed by broadening those conversations with all of you and with many of our other partners as we develop priorities for the department moving forward. We anticipate, following close of the comment period on November 10th, that we will be working toward a final strategic plan available in winter of this year, this upcoming winter, for immediate action in 2024. So our strategic plan contains revised mission and vision statements, as well as added core values and a diversity, equity, and inclusion commitment. And these four statements together will inform how we execute our goals and our sub-goals proposed in the draft strategic plan. We'll spend a little bit of time going over those today. So our mission is to protect human health and the environment by fostering sustainable pest management and regulating pesticides. This is central to how we conduct our work and establish our priorities. We achieve our mission through a lot of the things I talked about earlier in the overview of the department. I want to note that fostering reduced risk pest management is sort of the old terminology that we used in our mission and has been something we've done for many, many years within the state. The updated mission proposes to incorporate the word sustainable to reflect the vision of the Sustainable Pest Management Roadmap, to incorporate human health and equity, broader environmental protections, and economic vitality into our pest management decision-making practice. Our proposed vision for the state is a California where pest management is safe, effective, and sustainable for everyone. We are also, as a part of the plan, proposing 4 core values to include in our strategic plan to guide how we will act on our goals, priorities, and actions. These are both overarching as well as intended to guide core work by staff as a part of our day-to-day activities, as well as how we want to approach achieving our goals within the plan. So accountability means that we will hold ourselves accountable to Californians through transparency and engagement in advancing our mission. Our second core value is through collaboration. We will foster relationships and build partnerships through consultation, engagement, and collaboration, both internally and externally. Our third core value of integrity means we will hold ourselves to a high standard of integrity in our scientific review process and other actions, in our decision-making and through our engagement with others. And our fourth and final core value is continuous improvement, where we are committed to ongoing and continuous learning, innovation, and improvement across all facets of our work. As I mentioned, we've also included a new diversity, equity, and inclusion statement in our strategic plan. We recognize that in order to regulate pesticides equitably and for everyone, we also need to be mitigating and considering disparate health outcomes. And so wanted to publicly commit our work to support environmental justice and pursue diversity, equity, and inclusion in our internal and external work. And as a part of that DEI commitment, we're looking at specific outcomes as a part of that, including embedding a commitment to equity and environmental justice in our decision-making process, to expand and enhance our outreach, education, external communications, and knowledge-sharing opportunities through inclusive language and targeted, culturally responsive engagements, to increase access to information and data collected by the department in ways that can be used by different communities, as well as to provide the reasoning behind department decisions, and to create a more inclusive workplace through creative and equitable employee recruitment and retention, and to continue to build on our work around equity and environmental justice. So to accomplish this work, there's a lot of then needs that follows within the strategic plan. And so we've identified 4 goals and 14 measurable sub-goals as priorities for the coming 5 years in the draft plan. These goals bolster the department's programs and partnerships that evaluate pesticides for safety and efficacy, focus resources on streamlining availability and adoption of safe, effective, sustainable alternatives, foster collaboration, and increase transparency into the department's priorities and decision-making, and also promote excellence and innovation as a part of our work. And so I want to get into the specific goals. And on the screen, you'll see the 4 sub-goals that we have within each of these goals, considering increasing access to safe, effective, sustainable pest management. But I want to provide you some more specifics of what that might mean in practice for the department. So these will include goals around, so sorry for that, establishing a diverse cross-sector SPM advisory committee, updating our process for pesticide registration review, including initiating evaluations within 30 days of receiving necessary information, beginning a regular process for establishing a schedule for completing human health and environmental risk assessments with annual benchmarks, and increasing annual baseline grant funding to support projects and research that advances sustainable pest management. Under our second goal of track, evaluate, and enforce safe pesticide use, again, we have 4 sub-goals within this section to really think about data collection and how that informs the work that we have moving forward. And our sub-goals within this include developing metrics for analyzing compliance trends and regulatory effectiveness across a number of different considerations, to evaluate regulations governing pesticide use near schools and to improve processes around that, to expand our focus on e-commerce, recognizing that that's a growing area in which pesticides are sold into the state and wanting to make sure that we are maintaining the same requirements in that space. And finally, enhancing compliance for timing and documentation, particularly for worker safety regulations and farm labor contractors. Our third goal is to foster engagement, collaboration, and transparency. So again, we have 4 sub-goals on the screen in that area, but are looking at objectives including increasing meaningful outreach events, updating our website to make it more user-friendly and accessible, improving our, launching our statewide notification system, and expanding language access by providing health and safety resources in Spanish and at least one other language. And our final goal of promoting excellence and innovation, we're looking at specific objectives under these 2 sub-goals, including increasing trainings for our staff and a transition to electronic payments and online submittal of licensing applications and other requirements. So it's critical that our progress across these goals is measurable, and that measuring our work in all of these areas will promote accountability and transparency for all of our stakeholders, impacted partners, community members, and the public at large. I want to note specifically in the strategic plan that the dates are blank intentionally. This is a common question that I've gotten since this went out. The final plan will have dates, but we wanted to provide some space to hear from all of you about timing of what was important, what your recommendations for our priorities are as we think about finalizing the strategic plan later this year. And so I am looking forward to hearing from you today as a part of this process. Thank you again so much for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Sherry for us to move into public comment.
So now that you've heard the content, we'd like your feedback. So we'd like you to share your thoughts respectfully and honor the 2-minute timer. This will inform the strategic plan. Listening session coming up next. I need to move my paper. There we go. Feel free to state your name, your location or affiliation if you want. It's not required. If you could mention the specific goal that you have something to say, it might help David, our note taker. And the comments are, again, 2 minutes per.
Renee Pinnell, on behalf of Western Plains Health. We want to thank DPR for holding these outreach meetings, and we want to support the overall goals of the SPM program. I think everybody in agriculture supports the idea of being able to move to softer chemistries. However, we are concerned that we want to make sure that these alternative products are actually available before products start getting prioritized for removal from the office. These are more complex products as they become softer, and they may require more products to replace the current products on the market. So we just want to make sure that farmers aren't left in the lurch by products being taken or restricted before the alternatives are available. We do appreciate in Goal 1 DPR's commitment to a science-based process. We think if this is actually going to be successful, we need to maintain the commitment to science being the driver on the determination of products that get prioritized as well as products that come onto the market. We are a little concerned about the inclusion of open dates. We are concerned that what this will end up doing is that a lot of people are going to put their best hope, which may be next year, for a lot of these goals. And if DPR has not done an actual assessment or begun a number of these tasks, it will set an unrealistic expectation of the public and create even more stress within the agricultural and homeless communities. Again, just to reemphasize, we appreciate DPR recognizing that these goals will require partnerships from all stakeholders, and we look forward to DPR moving forward with that commitment.
Good afternoon, my name is Victor and I am with SASS, Future Leaders of Change, and I am from Ramsay Park, California. We the youth, the children, parents and grandparents who worked in the fields are firmly opposed to this quote plan proposed by DPR. What this plan is nothing short of a setback in progress made by other youth like me and people in our communities, but also a disrespect to environmental and racial justice as well. First and foremost, we take issue with the definition itself. Plan. This isn't any meaningful action towards environmental justice, but more crucially, racial justice. What DPR is proposing here is little more than PR, as it's meant to look as if our demands and concerns have been properly addressed, which they have not. As a matter of fact, DPR has gone the other way around by not even doing the best effort to meet with the afflicted communities and their concerned residents. Their meetings and other workshops have been inaccessible to many of our residents, being held late at night or through online-only channels. I was a victim of pesticide exposure at a young age in which I had to be rushed to the hospital. Many of those pesticides applied that day that caused my asthma attack are still on the market and used throughout the state. At this moment in time, I just recently turned 17, and there are currently 133 pesticides banned in the EU, which are still applied in this state. If you ban only 2 a year, which is not even mentioned in the plan, might I add, I will be 83 years old by the time we reach parity with our European counterparts. I would also like to mention that the plan only lists mitigation and research of 2 pesticides per year. Again, we aren't even assured of this. We aren't even assured of safety or protection by its definition, which is a plan. Again, I am here today not only to protest this mediocre plan brought forward by the authority meant to protect us from such dangerous chemicals, but to also advocate for other members of my community that couldn't be here today, and for my grandparents who worked in the fields for many years. We have grown tired of the falsehoods brought forward time and time again. Enough is enough. Stop prioritizing profits over people's lives. Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Kilpatrick. I work with Safe Ag Schools Campaign for Organic and Regenerative Agriculture, and I also do some committee work with a couple of other groups. So thanks for coming to Watsonville. Your plan opens with some good values and intentions, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's nice to be included. But after a good start, your strategy for improving pesticide regulation and enforcement is full of gaps, which we'll style those as openings for substantive comment. 2 organizations I work with, CPR and California Nurses for Environmental Health and Justice, will submit comments on support. I tried to use my nurse brain to make big issues understandable, and those comments are floating around the room, and hopefully some people will bring them out. We're here to support our youth. They're frustrated, impatient, just like the young people who came to the meeting of the CARB climate scoping plan. They don't see this plan as protecting their future or as preventing or repairing harms to their communities and families. Just so you know, your timing for this meeting was clueless. Yes, you postponed it on request, but how did you publicize it? How did you choose this time frame? Today is the middle of important ceremonial days for our Mexican-American community. People are honoring their ancestors, their antepasados. The veil between the worlds is open. On Monday, 4 o'clock, people who work in the fields, schools, healthcare should be headed home to be with family, feed them, and be fed after taking care of us. Hopefully, farm workers will have a chance to strip off their clothes dusted with pesticides before they hug their kids. They're tired and not up for a meeting that they never even heard about. Folks coming from Santa Cruz or Salinas might be caught in heavy traffic. Maybe you were too. The timing is bad, besides being culturally insensitive. Real reduction of California ag's chemical dependency problem is a big job. Transforming the system to diversify and decentralize food production is essential for environmental justice and to counter and adapt to our warming planet. We need to rebuild healthy soil and restore our natural landscapes. We need a plan that assembles the pieces of the puzzle, one that expedites change and reduces bids. So far, this plan falls way short. We need a better plan.
Would you like to get back in line afterwards for another 2 minutes, or are you complete?
I hope other people will say things that I wrote down on my plan.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Phoenix Artemisia. I am a mother, a local business owner, and I own a home in unincorporated Watsonville surrounded by ag. Industrial chemical ag is not conventional. It is not farming. The protocol for forcing yield kills the soil first fumigation, adds fertilizers to make it viable, puts pesticides on the yield, and after the harvest, the soil is disced up into the air with lots of a mess for all of us here. What this is environmental racism. This situation that is called farming exploits immigrants, workers who have fears to speak out for a healthy workplace, ruins the soil, the air, the water, and people's health. In our economy in Watsonville, we suffer from a lack of municipalities because we have no budget in the city. There's no sales tax on this food. The food prices are too high. Nobody wants to raise sales tax on the food. There's no regulation. The profits are going to big business, Driscoll and Ryder. There's little or no return to our community with this method of so-called farming. My daughter is a student near Alianza Elementary. She goes to Watsonville Charter School. There were 6 pesticide notifications this month for her schools. Fortunately, 2 of them were canceled, 2 of them were rescheduled, but we received notifications every week. So for the layperson, that means there were 6 applications around our children within 200 feet of Alianza School. We need a quarter-mile buffer around our schools, which is the situation for North Monterey County. We need to have organic ag for a quarter mile around our schools, period. Doing the pesticide applications on Saturdays does not make a difference in the exposure risk to students and staff. It's lip service.
Let me have about 10 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, students, teachers, and residents in the neighborhoods deserve a lot better. And an impermeable tarp is not guaranteed. When the borders of the tarp are secured by dirt thrown down around the borders, it's laughable for those of us who are being told to trust our health and our children's health. With this kind of regulation, we cannot trust you. We need to have a lot of progress. Please support us. Thank you.
My name is Alicia Rangel. I am a SASS member and part of the Future Leaders of Change. We, the youth, reject this plan. This is non-negotiable. This plan is a joke. Over 100 pesticides, and you are considering to less than 2 per year. It will take 66 years to get rid of these pesticides. Basically a lifetime. I will be 80 by then, most likely dead. This is a slap in the face of my generation. I don't want my generation or future children and grandchildren to keep dealing with this. I want them to be in a safe and clean environment. These pesticides are only being applied in my community, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. This is environmental racism. We are insulted with this plan. We are not here to negotiate. Our lives are not up for negotiation. The fight for pesticides began with Cesar Chavez. It should have stopped then. I should not be fighting for this or in the future. It is ridiculous. How many more people have to die from cancer? It is your responsibility and your job to protect us people and not greedy agricultural companies. They are getting rich at the cost of us. We are not expendable and not worth 14 times less than 1,3D. Stop feeding us lies. The science is there. Stop ignoring it. We are youth and we understand science. Listen to us. We are supposed to be protected by you all, by adults. Clearly we can't. We youth have to come here and stand up for ourselves.
My name is Santiago Torres. I'm from Greenfield, California, and I am with SASS Future Leaders of Change. Me and all other members are against this plan brought to us by DPR, as it does not remotely begin to meet our demands. We have long struggled against pesticides in our community, like many others across the state, fighting to raise awareness to the dangers of pesticides and tirelessly working to get the most concerning pesticides banned. For me, to get to see such a plan from DPR is a slap in the face to not only me, but other members of my community too.
Hello, my name is Barbara Anders, and I've lived in the area for the past 45 years. My children went to school at Bradley in the days of Malathion. I live out in the unincorporated area of Watsonville as well. Lovely, lovely area, right next to the fairground. I was very happy about being so close to the fairground and the people that feed us here in the valley. However, I see now that the practices are uninspired, frankly outdated, and poisonous. And as if the pesticides themselves weren't bad enough, and there's tons of evidence to prove it, as the movie Common Ground just made very clear, and I hope everybody will go see it. As if that wasn't bad enough, we have acres and acres and acres of plastic. As if plastic is going to help us get healthy plants. It doesn't, number one. And number two, it pollutes our environment, which is already plastic overloaded. So I know that you've done a lot of work in this plan, it's obvious, but you're spinning, I don't know what to call it. You're not evil, you're not intentionally doing this, you really believe in your jobs. But see common ground, and I'd like to know a response when you do. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Willey. I'm a retired certified organic farmer of 30 years, vegetable farmer in the San Joaquin Valley. I'd like to read a sentence from your draft strategic plan. I believe it's from the first goal. It says, DPR must support the accelerated availability and adoption of effective sustainable pest management tools, practices, resources, and technologies. So within that context, I don't know why there is no recognition or encouragement for the adoption of organic production. According to the California Department of Food and Agriculture, there are 2 million certified organic acres in California. Certified organic production largely eliminates all toxic inputs into production systems, and as that is seemingly your ultimate goal, I can't figure out why you're not willing to encourage the adoption of certified organic acreage. So, in fact, here in Santa Cruz County, 25% of all of our agriculture, possibly 30%, is certified organic production. And it's rather an insult to the producers in this community who have taken that extra step to produce safe and nutritious food for our communities to not have that achievement recognized and promoted beyond in many of the other counties of California. So I'd certainly like you to consider amending this draft plan to include and promote certified organic agriculture in its final form. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joshua Ezekiel. I've lived in the Monterey Bay area since 1985, recently retired from teaching. I'm addressing Goal 3.3, launch a statewide restricted material pesticide application notification system. DPR has been playing at this for years, and the County Agricultural Commissioner has had our pilot program in this county for years. They've had a pilot program in in Monterey County for years, and the entire county here in Santa Cruz County for years. The insidious infiltration of this toxic witch's brew of pesticides that just won't stay where we put them, or where others put them, and that come to our homes and schools is a plague. And we need to at least be informed. If they can leave these substances where they will impact us, can we be informed when they'll be applied? Thank you very much.
Hi, Karen Cameron. I'm a resident of Salinas, a homeowner, retired school teacher, work with many children who suffer from a long list of health effects that I believe was related to pesticides. I promised you a copy of this when I saw us at DPR in Oxnard, California. That's the data from OEHHA. In case you didn't get a hold of it, there you go. It shows the pesticide pollution burden in Salinas area, and you'll see that most of the map is in deep purple, 90 to 100% accumulation of pesticides. I live in the deep purple. When I moved back to Salinas, I developed a strong allergy to formaldehyde, which included hospitalization for 10 days and a Stanford referral. Google formaldehyde, the first thing that comes up is pesticides. Now, I find it interesting that on your statement, you talk about your mission being protecting human health and the environment, and that your vision is for a safe, effective, and sustainable system to do that. Earlier, we heard from one of the ag companies who said science needs to be the driver. I would question whose science are you looking at, whose data? Because Chamaco's reports over dozens of years have been ignored. The OEHHA data has been ignored. Lots of other data that has been subjected to you has been fully ignored. When you talk about in goal 1.2, improving your timeliness and transparency, I'm glad you recognize that as a goal because you're in dire need. It took 5 years of the public screaming for give us a number of how many pounds, how many millions of pounds of pesticides do you pollute this state with? And it took us 5 years to get that data. We didn't get it until 2021. You bragged on a decline, but that's because the highest amount was in 2020. When everyone was going through the pandemic, you were hiding data. So we'd like more transparency. As was pointed out, there's over 100 pesticides that are being used that are banned in dozens of European countries. So it's time to make some serious changes. And please put some numbers on this that are realistic. We need it like yesterday.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, my name is Bocce Kagan, and I'm a local therapist in this area. I applaud you coming to this area. This is important that this community hears from you and you hear from us. Although I applaud your desire to reduce pesticides, and I know you're good people with good intentions, what I do also know is that it feels insulting. When somebody has cancer in this area due to pesticides, it's insulting to say you're going to reduce, like imagine yourself having cancer and somebody said, well, we're going to take 5% away of the things that are causing you sickness. How do you feel about that? Is that good? Are you happy? No, you're not. You're angry. You're insulted. You're not cared about. If you have a birth defect and your mother is working in the fields and is about to be pregnant again and is being exposed to those pesticides, are you going to be happy that only 1 or 2 pesticides are going to be reduced by 5%? No. You don't want your brother or sister to end up not being able to read and not being able to write and not being able to think. That is not okay. And I strongly urge you, organic is available, it's possible. Climate, it's hot out here in November, almost November. Climate is an important thing. We can solve the climate crisis with reduced, eliminated pesticides and regenerative agriculture. You should be pushing for that, for your children, for your grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name organic farms and ranches throughout California. And we will provide more in our written comment. But what I wanted to share today is overall, our concern is that this plan starts from scratch. It imagines that we haven't made the progress or have made, our sister agencies haven't done the deep dive that we need to in order to move forward. So an example of that is under goal 1.1, there's by 2020 blank, in collaboration with CDFA and other partners, develop SPM certifications for agricultural and urban settings, including for California grown produce. So how I read this is DPR has the intention of collaborating with CDFA to develop SPM certifications. We already have SPM certifications. It's called organic certification. This is recognized in the roadmap. And yet, going through the effort of creating an SPM certification is redundant of that, doesn't recognize the vast number of organic farmers that are every day implementing SPM. And is a delay in moving forward toward our ultimate goal of reducing pesticide use in this state. Overall, we would love to see DPR collaborating with its sister agencies. CARB, also under Cal EPA, set aside an organic transition target of California being 20% organic by 2045. We would love to see DPR take up that mantle and harmonize with CARB in that way by also supporting organic transition. And lastly, the roadmap has 2 goals that it sets aside for next year. One of which is obtaining the funding to implement the roadmap. And yet, I don't see anything in here about how DPR plans on getting the funding it needs in order to implement the roadmap, let alone implementing the strategic plan. So I think harmonizing and streamlining and being efficient is really critical in this moment in order for us to affect change rapidly. And organic is a way of doing that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Tomlinson, and I'm coming up here from Santa Maria, which is in Santa Barbara County. I've grown up most of my life in Santa Maria, and I'm no stranger to the issues we face as a community. We're no strangers to pesticide exposure either. Around the city lines and at the heart of Santa Maria, there are fields. Each of these fields are doused with toxic chemicals that are not properly regulated at all, and in areas where buffer zones aren't close to respected. Just because there are crops, it doesn't mean that there needs to be pesticides. I'm here to say that we all deserve better. As a student athlete, I'm sad to say that I've missed out on so many opportunities just because of the reckless pesticide exposure I've faced. After practicing all throughout my high school career next to fields, I was huffing in these toxic chemicals and puffing out my healthy youth. And from this, I knew change was necessary. It's the issues surrounding pesticides that our communities understand that students, children, mothers, workers, and just about everyone else face a slew of side effects. Cancer, skin damage, respiratory illness, and endocrine disruption are something we can't ignore. And will a 5% annual reduction really help us? Hardly. Is it even close to enough? No. Will identifying only 2 chemical pesticides to tackle annually help us? Not fast enough. We need to see clear, accurate, and consistent data that is location-specific to be published and offered to our community. At least allow us as a community to better our choices for our own health. The proposed plan here does not include what our community needs. We deserve to be aware of what is going on. The health of our community is at stake. If we are informed about what pesticides are being used, we can hold DPR and the Ag Commission accountable for what is happening. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Nancy Falstick. I'm the director of Regeneración Pajaro Valley Climate Action. Thank you everybody for being here. I want to start out by talking about climate change, which is changing everything. And I want to start with a statement that it's time to rethink our food systems, rethink many of the things in our life that we have considered to be normal and appropriate, given that we're about to go over the climate cliff. And in terms of the specifics of this plan, I think it's really founded on a contradiction in terms. I don't think there is such a thing as safe pesticide use. I think the DEI commitment sounds like paying lip service to it, talking about aiming for equitable outcomes for all Californians. We are so far from that. We know how disproportionately certain communities, particularly low-income communities, Latinx communities, immigrant communities of color are being affected. So if we have a long-range goal of eliminating the use of fossil fuels, that would include the elimination of pesticides. Other speakers have mentioned that regenerative and organic agriculture are the climate solution that we have available. And we have to stop prioritizing short-term profits and sacrificing short-term health and well-being, but also sacrificing long-term sustainability. So again, I just think that pesticides are incompatible with the long-term well-being of people and other species on this planet, and that we need to treat climate change like the emergency it is. Thank you.
My name is Blanca Antonio. I came from the largely agricultural area, Santa Maria. My parents have been farm workers for about 20 years, and during this time we have noticed a lot of long-lasting effects of pesticide exposure. Recently, my mom has developed increasingly worse cataracts, as well as respiratory issues. Health issues are not something we should be handling lightly. I'm not sure why we aren't making more drastic changes if we are aware that pesticide use has very heavy health issues when exposed. I'm not sure why these changes aren't occurring in order to protect farm workers who are often ill-informed and exploited. I hope you all understand that 5% reductions become insignificant when we take into account the length of time many farm workers have already been exposed to pesticides. I want to see something that ensures the longevity of your plan does something more than these Band-Aid solutions. Are you directly acknowledging the exposure and effects that have already been occurring? Will you also be forcing something like an annual health exam for these workers to ensure your plan is making a difference? What resources will you be providing them that will aid farm workers in educating them about what is at stake in regards to their health when they go into work and are placed in pesticide-filled fields? We are having to advocate for more drastic protection measures because we see the lack of tangible and effective action on the behalf of the DPR. We can argue about the loss of profit or the low cost of these cancer-causing pesticides that enable a larger harvest. But why are we putting a price tag on the health and well-being of these farm workers? Exactly. Why are we putting an expiration date on them? These farm workers work tirelessly and laborfully to provide us with fresh produce on a daily basis. You are the people in charge. You will all go back to the comfort of your office, but would you be willing to work in an area that is full of pesticide residue? I invite you to. I welcome you to. If you stand by this mediocre plan, you are affirming that you do not care what side effects these hardworking labor and farm workers are continuously exposed to.
Blanca, can you come back for the rest of it?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Tulare Medina. I live in Santa Maria on Santa Barbara County. Our valley's economy revolves around agriculture, just like much of our state. Whenever I walk out of my home, whether it be to go to school or run an errand, I can smell the chemicals in the air. My peers and I have grown up feeling the side effects that come from constant spraying in our community. How will you ensure that my health isn't affected? Reducing the use of 2 pesticides by only 5% each year is not an effective solution. I know you will understand that. The problem is happening right now, so why are you planning to solve it in the future? There are so many solutions that people here have suggested that are 100% doable and should be focused on. Organic ag is the future. Enforcing the regulations you decide is necessary. Stop poisoning us. For this plan will not solve the issues we are facing. DPR needs faster and more efficient ways to actually help our community. The health of my peers and I should not be at risk because you don't take action. My health, our health, is not negotiable. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Colleen Douglas. I live in Santa Cruz County, and my grandchildren live here in Watsonville. We are in a public health emergency now as a result of pesticide use. My grandkids have respiratory problems. They live within a mile of the school, but they live in Watsonville. And these so-called buffers are not large enough. They're not large enough. So in goal number 2.2, it's evaluate regulations in governing pesticide use around schools and take appropriate action. Yes, thank you for focusing on the children, but the children live in homes, and these homes are also impacted by pesticides. The wind blows, period. Aerial spraying of pesticides is going to continue, and it's going to go into the homes as well as the schools. Goal 1.3, evaluating high-risk pesticides. Please add something like, remove all chemicals we already know cause cancer. Now, we already know. How much more data do we need? Remove them now. Start there, because you already know what they are. Do it. Go for organics. We need to protect the children. I'm old. I'm going to go soon, but the future is here. Thank you all for being here. We need to protect them. In this time of where the veil is thin, I'm just going to say one more thing, and that is, I walk in the Spirit, I walk in the light, I walk for the dark in the darkest hour of night, and I call on my ancestors to my left and my right to walk with me, to walk with me. I walk in the Spirit, I walk in the light, I walk for the children to survive and to thrive, and I call on my ancestors to my left and my right to walk with me, to walk with me.
Good afternoon. My name is Chelsea Tu, and I'm the Executive Director of Monterey Waterkeeper. And Monterey Waterkeeper is here to work with all communities to make sure that waters in the Central Coast are drinkable and swimmable and fishable for all. And I'll keep my comments short here. I wanted to share a couple of anecdotes that community members from the Salinas Valley, where pesticides impact, are pervasive and expensive, as other folks have shared. So the community members, especially in rural parts of the Salinas Valley, and as well as in parts of the Tulare Valley, cannot drink their water. And that's not only due to fertilizer nitrate pollution that are high in their groundwater, but also pesticides, most of which are not tested. So you may be drinking pesticide-laden water, even if it's safe for nitrate or other things that are tested and monitored. So folks are being poisoned by pesticides through the air, as folks have shared. They're being poisoned by pesticides in their drinking water. And then they're being boxed in their homes, as people have shared. Community members have told me that they do not go near the Salinas River because they know, because science is very clear that the Salinas River is not swimmable and it's not fishable. And that's really sad because their parents used to do that when they were growing up, when I was growing up. And so I'm here to support youth and other community leaders in I'm not only asking you for incremental change, because that's clear that this draft plan, that's all that is. But really to demand here that you scratch this plan and co-create with the community. Come back to the communities that are most impacted, not just here in Watsonville, but deep in the Salinas Valley. Go down to the Santa Maria Valley. Why do people have to travel 3 hours or 4 hours just to come to this meeting at 4 p.m. on a weekday? But go to the communities and co-create a new plan that is supported and accepted by the communities and is founded in science.
Would you like to do that?
No, thank you, I'm not done.
Hello, my name is Sandra Ward. It's a privilege to be here today with these young voices and everyone that has spoken the truth. These are truth singers. Thank you. Thank you. So, Watsonville is my home, and I'm co-owner of a farm I'm here with my husband, Ken Kimes, and we are, for 40 years plus, successful organic farmers. And so I don't really have any exposure to y'all, all right? But I realize after reading your mission statement that we're talking, it's not a mystery. We're talking job security, right? All right. So being an independent farmer, we work really hard. We get a lot done, but it takes work. And we don't have job security. Any day the FDA could come in and say, you're out of here. Any day. I've got a history of that. Because I speak out, and that's what I'm doing today. But I just want to say, I know you mentioned partners a lot, different partners. Are you partnering with the Farm Bill? Because the Farm Bill mentions preemptive language, which means that any city, county, community cannot restrict the pesticide use. So, if that's your partner, it's soon to be our partner, we're going to get really involved with the Farm Bill. So anyway, I think I would like to see you sleep good at night. I'd like to see you get good work done. And I'd like to see you forget your 11,443 pesticides that you evaluate. Wow. And you're going to look at 2 for the next 5 years? Wow. That's amazing. But anyway, I'm asking you to go to work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's all in the right direction with these comments here. Except for the all right?
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yaneli Martinez, and I am the community organizer for the fabulous Safe Act, Safe Schools. And I'm not here to talk about myself anymore because there was Cesar Chavez, even Rachel Carson. There's been so many other people talking about the fact that pesticides are not just killing our community, they're killing our soil, they're killing our pollinators. But I'm here in full support of this amazing group of young leaders that we have here today. Yes. Because they're going to be the ones taking over our jobs and maybe doing things right, things that we couldn't even do right. They're coming and taking your job, DPR. I see Commissioner Hidalgo in the back as well. They're going to be coming taking his job. Because you know what? It's their time. This is our youth, their voices, and their future, and they're here because they need it, and they're tired of this nonsense. 5% ridiculous plan, honestly, I'm not going to be here. A lot of them probably going to be in their late 80s with children. That is not enough. So I'm just here in solidarity with the youth. So Greenfield, presente. Watsonville, presente. Santa María, presente. Ventura, presente. El Valle de Salinas, presente. ¿Se puede el cambio?
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Segura. Coming from Santa Maria for you today. I think it is unacceptable that I had one drive 3.5 hours to bring some youth that really wanted to be here today. Y'all should be coming to us. Completely understand that you're doing incredible work, analyzing the pesticides, making these decisions for us, but we're not seeing the regulation that needs to be there. We're not seeing the enforcement with the ag commissioners to actually protect and follow through with the ways that they're supposed to be regulated. I'm tired of having to live in communities that I love, but I have to fear for the safety of myself, my family, my students. My mother worked in the fields well into the 3rd trimester. I now have a heart condition that is very likely because of exposure to pesticides. Growing up, it was very rare for me to not know people who had some sort of respiratory infection. Every other week, respiratory condition like asthma, until I went to college and I realized that's not a normal thing. It's not a normal thing to go to school, to feel nauseous, to feel physically ill in the mornings after they spray pesticides. Growing up, this was just what it was supposed to be. I'm 23. Why is this the reality that I am now seeing for my students, 6, 7 years removed from high school? As we hear today, we know that this plan is not effective in the ways that communities are demanding that they need to be treated and respected. We're seeing band-aid solutions for problems that have existed for decades. We know what the solutions are. We know that organic farming is possible, at the very least in proximity to cities and schools. Why is it that we're not investing in that? We're seeing the reckless behavior that we're seeing from people who are supposed to make decisions for our well-being. We don't know what we're doing. We want to hear from you. Then why are you not making these hearings accessible to more folks? And I know it's not just you three. Thank you for being here in community. But the whole department should really be on the ground listening to the youth voices that know what they want for their future. As a youth organizer, as a person from these communities that loves the Central Coast, agriculture is not going away, which means we need to find solutions that are going to start now. Thank you so much.
Hi there, my name is Katie. I live in Santa Cruz. I'm a registered nurse, and I work for an organization called California Nurses for Environmental Health and Justice. We're going to be submitting further comment, but I just wanted to say thank you all to the youth for being here. And I just want to talk about, as a nurse, I am very concerned about the impacts of pesticide use on our farms, our farm workers, our communities, and specifically our communities of color. And I just want to reiterate something I believe her name was Blanca, which said that these health issues, and particularly these health disparities that we see with communities of color, should not be taken lightly. As healthcare providers, we want data. We want to be guided by science. And so specifically, I'd like to address goal 2.1, enhancing and modernizing the Department of Pesticide Regulation, collection of information and data to improve program policies, procedures, and priorities. So DPR and other agencies have a history of completely insufficient monitoring and poorly presented data that is not shared with the community in a timely manner. So we demand current and easily accessible data. Pesticide use reporting and pesticide illness surveillance reporting, or pesticide illness surveillance program data are 5 years behind at this point, which is unacceptable. So further in our outreach to medical professionals, we've discovered that many medical providers are unaware of how to check for pesticide illness, of how to, they're unaware of the PISP program. And so we demand that DPR will hold obligatory healthcare provider trainings in frontline communities. And one suggestion would be to use the money from violation fines to fund these programs. Thank you.
You are the people in charge. You will all go back to the comfort of your office. But would you be willing to work in an area that is full of pesticide residue regularly for the next decade? I invite you to, and I welcome you to join these farm workers and work alongside them. Not only do they have to endure the backbreaking labor, as well as the side effects caused by pesticide exposure. If you stand by this mediocre plan, you are affirming that you do not care what side effects affect these hard-working farm workers. They are continuously exposed, and you are saying that it's fine. You are not between a rock and a hard place. You are between hard-working people and unethical profits.
Hello, I'm Sarah Ringler. I'm a teacher in the Valley, live in the area, live over in the senior area. area, right around a bunch of fields, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the strawberry. The Environmental Working Group, they're an organization that it looks at food and looks at chemicals on the food. They have a dirty dozen, and the top of that dirty dozen is strawberries. That means strawberries, the pesticides and poisons on strawberries are such that you can't even wash it off. Now you think, people all over, I've been traveling around and you see Driscoll's strawberries, the other companies as well, you see their commercial strawberries and people are buying them. So you take those strawberries, take them out of somebody's house, out of their home, put it back in the box. Where's the origin of those strawberries? It's these fields right here that these workers are exposed to. So getting rid of pesticides saves lives in the field, but it also saves lives of consumers. And why the United States does such a poor job of protecting its consumers, especially parents who think giving strawberries to somebody is, have your fruit, it's good for you. So I just want to point out that this is more insidious, or it's insidious all the way up and down the line. And you should be responsible for protecting our citizens.
Hi, thank you for coming down and listening to everybody here today. It's been really great to hear everyone. My name is Gina Colfer. I'm a pest control advisor here on the Central Coast for the last 35 years. For my first 10 years of my career, I was involved in the conventional side of agriculture and saw the environmental effects of pesticides in the environment and worker safety with the people who are applying the pesticides and working. So switch to organic and see that in a whole systems approach, the organic system is really effective at pest management. And that's the crux of it, is the pest management here, right? Because we're trying to eliminate pesticides. What are those pesticides going after? The pest. So we look at the whole system where you build soil health to begin with. It starts with the soil, and then it feeds up to the plant. A healthy soil harbors a healthy plant. If we don't have alternatives for the grower to produce a healthy plant, then we're going to be applying pesticides. So then what are those alternatives to these harder synthetic pesticides? Well, they're the more biologicals, the biopesticides, and the biostimulants. But we are never going to spray our way out of a problem with these softer chemistries, so then growers are going to have to buy more and more, and the cost per acre is going to go up and up. And then it drives the grower out of business in the long run. And this is called the Sustainable Pest Management Roadmap. And if we don't have growers farming in this area, it's not sustainable for the grower, the farm worker, the businesses that support agriculture. So we need research to figure out how to do it.
My name is Carrie Ace, and I came in support. I came all the way from Ventura. It was a 6-hour drive. And I came because I want to stand for the youth and for the communities, to be here for them because it's so important. So I'm with Californians for Pesticide Reform and a bunch of other groups that are looking to, make the world a better place for the people who really need it. There's a whole lot of people who aren't well supported and protected. DPR has a mission to protect the health of the people and the environment. And so they keep it. And define, you're not meeting that mission. The people are hurting. So I came up here thinking, I'm the kind of person that takes me about 30 minutes to really pull together what I want to say. 30 minutes after an argument, that was the answer. So what I'm going to try to do is just call out all the really great arguments. I'm going to miss some. People talk to you about their health concerns of them, their families. You know what those are. You've heard time and again. If that hasn't moved you, what will? People have talked about alternatives. We know in Europe they've gotten rid of a lot of these pesticides. Why can't we do it here? 30% of the farmers in Santa Cruz County are doing it. Why can't the rest of the farmers? What is preventing you from saying, make that the model, push for it, and make it happen by 2025? I bet we all could come up with some answers, including the fact that most pesticides are somehow related to petroleum industry. Where is your funding coming from? Possibly petroleum industry? You need to look at where your funding is coming from and who your partners are, like Farm Bill people. Kick all of them out and start again. Also, I just wanted to say, there's a toxic stew of 11,000 chemicals out there. If you look at one and the consequences of that one, great, that causes cancer and other damage. You need to look at the entire cocktail that goes into a body.
Hi, my name is Valerie Bengal. I'm a family physician. I worked for 43 years in the Salinas Valley and the Pajaro Valley taking care of farm workers. So I might have delivered the parents and grandparents of some of these kids. And I'm very fortunate because when I was their age, some adults actually decided we should have an atmospheric nuclear test ban treaty. They decided we should get rid of DDT. They decided we should have no lead in the gasoline and the paint. So I'm wondering, well, where are the adults now? I mean, what are we doing to their generation? I mean, when I first came to this area in 1981, we were battling mass pesticide poisonings. We learned how to recognize the signs. I was at Natividad Medical Center and worked in the valley. And now it's more insidious. Some of these are long-term, gradual effects, and as other speakers have said, it can be cumulative, it can be from multiple different chemicals. So it's just impossible to remediate this. Your plan, I hate to say it, but it's so wishy-washy. I mean, you're never going to get anywhere incrementally like this. And in medicine, we would not do that. There was a famous physician who knew there was a cholera epidemic in a city on the East Coast. And he determined it came from a particular source of water. So he disconnected the water pump and he stopped the cholera epidemic. He could have just given people hydration and then they keep getting cholera and then maybe you can save some by treatment. But you have to start at the source. So I echo everything as the second caboose that everyone said before me. And I really appreciate all the people who come here. I'm glad you came here, but you need to be more involved because this is a human rights and civil rights and public health law, and it's not going away until the government, which represents us, really helps us. Thanks.
Good afternoon, I'm Woody Rehannon. I'm a retired special ed teacher in Pajaro Valley Unified School District. I taught 18 years. I also was a farm worker in Washington State for 18 years. What connected those two things were pesticides. I was exposed to pesticides in the apple orchards of Washington State, and many of my students were exposed in utero right here in this valley or as young children. I'm going to jump right in the Pajaro Valley Unified School District, 67 farms, greenhouses, and nurseries are within a quarter mile of our schools. 16 growers are organic. 50 growers are conventional chemical. Conventional berry farms within a quarter mile of schools use the carcinogenic fumigant 1,3-D, 1,3-dichloropropiene, or T-lone, which has been banned in 34 countries. Does this make sense to you? California boasts the strictest pesticide regulations in the world, yet the European Union 2 days ago voted to eliminate 50% of all pesticides by 2030. And 65% of restricted or hazardous pesticides by 2030. California needs to follow this lead while converting to organic regenerative agriculture. As Dia de los Muertos celebrates those who have gone before, los antepasados, we also need to think about the future generations who are they're in abundance here today, and I thank Safe Ag, Safe Schools, and the young people for being here. I'm a member of that group and also the Campaign for Organic and Regenerative Agriculture. I appreciate the doctor's comment that the cumulative impacts over time of pesticides, was that my time?
Yeah.
Have not been studied by DPR.
Do you want to come back after this?
I might, thank you. Sure.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Teresa Gómez, yo vengo representando el condado de Ventura con CAPS 805, una coalición que aboga por los pesticidas saludables. Tuve que manejar desde 6 horas para venir a decir que rechazamos este plan estratégico del DPR tan pobre, porque se olvida de la costa central donde hay miles de trabajadores sin ser notificados de estos pesticidas que son tan peligrosos y dañinos para su salud. Yo como campesina estoy representando a la comunidad campesina indígena y a los estudiantes que no pudieron venir el día de hoy porque muchos de ellos tienen clases y en este momento estoy aquí para decirles que yo como campesina fui expuesta por esos pesticidas tan peligrosos para mi salud y no nada más para mí, sino también para mis hijos, que en estos momentos ellos tienen problemas respiratorios y no es justo para todos nuestros estudiantes y nuestros niños que están aquí abogando por estos pesticidas tan peligrosos y el DPR no hace nada para proteger a nuestros estudiantes, a nuestra comunidad. Como dice su misión, cumplan con su plan, no lo hagan tan pobre o no estén tan lentos para su trabajo. Esto para mí no es científico, esto es racista y ambiental para nuestra comunidad indígena y para todos los que estamos aquí presentes. ¿Se puede o no se puede? ¡Sí se puede!
Hi, thanks for coming to Watsonville. You probably need to be a whole lot of other places too, it sounds like. I'm a certified organic farmer. We've been farming organically and certified for 35 years. I have to say that I don't understand why, and I would like to suggest that you'd actually move this whole process forward like light speed. If you would recognize certified organic farming as part of a program that you can incentivize, and I think you could probably find the money to do that, and you can incentivize farmers becoming certified organic. You can put the carrot out there for them. You don't have to always be the stick. You can be the carrot. You can see certified organic all through California. It's already really strong here in San Andreas County. It's proven. It's a national law. It's mature. It's got all the beats and students and everything else. It's there. It's there for you to adopt as part of your program. Adopt the certified organic, the NOP, and bring it on board. And you can just light speed your efforts ahead to move away from toxic pollutants.
Hi, my name is Eric Barton, and I work for a company called AgTech Logic. And we basically, our entire goal is to help reduce pesticides and herbicides. And I don't see any of this plan too much about technology. And there's current techniques and technology out there that we're using now that can reduce herbicides up to 90%. And your plan shows that you're looking to reduce 5% over per year, which looks like a little bit, but by mandating technology and precision spraying, intelligent precision spraying, you can drop it by a ton more. And even switching over to other chemicals that are like other herbicides, maybe organic herbicides, which the cost is much higher and the ROI for the farmer goes down. By having intelligent precision spraying, you can target the weeds and pesticide or pests and end up using way less. So they can have the same ROI and use chemicals that are much less harmful. And just by having, it's 2023 and broadcast spraying is like the equivalent of taking a fire hose and just spraying a field when in essence you could detect weeds and spray them much more effectively. And I think that we're in a place in time that we should be able to do that. In California, we should be a leader in that. So anyway, intelligent precision spraying is the way to go, and I guess you're looking at some technology for your plan.
thinking of a one-liner, I thought of the Department of Pesticide Reincarnation. I thought because there's an endless pipeline of new products being put on, you know, online by the companies using company science, and then it takes years for us to catch up, for the science to catch up with those new products. Instead of following DPR's road to nowhere, we need to move toward organic and regenerative agriculture immediately to benefit human and environmental health and to sequester carbon in the soil as a solution to greenhouse gas reduction. There's very little in your plan, if any, about climate change and greenhouse gas reduction. Now, healthy soils sequester carbon. These fumigated soils here, they do not sequester carbon because the biology has been disrupted by the fumigants. That's what they're intended to do. And there are unintended consequences. They're really after plant pathogens in the soil. But it basically wipes out the soil biology effectively. And those are not functioning healthy soils anymore. The good news is that with compost, cover cropping, and other tried and true methods, you can bring the soil back and get the microbes back in the soil and get carbon reduction. They say that one application of high quality compost on 1 acre can result in 4 metric tons of carbon sequestration. You multiply that out by the 7,100 acres of organic farm and ranch land in this county, and that starts to add up. And it helps our county achieve zero emissions much sooner than we would otherwise. We need to factor those things in. Thank you very much.
My name is Jenny Broom, and I wanted to come forward. I really appreciate the sincerity and honesty and listening to the experiences of people here today in the room. I wanted to just share briefly that I served on the Sustainable Pest Management Work Group. It was 30 plus people with very diverse life experiences and knowledge that they did bring to the almost year and a half process. So I do want to respectfully call that out. And I'm a specialist, a plant pathologist by training. I also spent 13 years working with organic solutions in the region here, so I do know that they're real and they can work, but I also know that there are other situations where they don't. And so having more research, I guess, which was definitely called out by the roadmap, and the DPR has done an excellent job of partnering with the University of California, with CDFA to call for greater funding, and they have funded innovative projects in this area, things like soil steam pasteurization or anaerobic soil disinfestation. So I'd like us all to try to remember that we're all part of the same community, and we are trying to move the ball forward, and that there is a lot of exciting things to do. And the young people here today, I would love to encourage them to do ag research and to be part of the solution. There's so much to work on. So thank you all for being here and for listening to me and everyone else.
Hi, my name is Ellen Farmer. I'm with the Campaign for Organic and Regenerative Agriculture. I want to underscore everything that Woody just said. It's absolutely true. We can solve the climate crisis by changing dramatically the way we do agriculture, not to mention improving everybody's health. So two wins in one process, but we have to change agriculture as we know it. And organic is the beginning way to do it, and regenerative actually sequesters the carbon. We keep living roots in the soil. Farmers are learning how to do this. They can teach each other. And I just really want to encourage you to be visionary, step forward boldly. The people of California will thank you, and it could be a model for the world.
your attention one area that's really lacking, and I do appreciate the comments that went previously about the need to prioritize sustainable organic farming as a pathway, as well as the need for looking at ag technology, because there are some solutions that should be prioritized there as well. But I'd like to bring to your attention that it's inadequate what we've done right now in terms of air monitoring. I live in Salinas, the salad bowl of the world, where we feed the world, they say. So I don't understand why the air monitoring system was removed from there. I believe it was in 2015. That's just inadequate. We deserve to be able to know. Recent headlines stated that Salinas had the cleanest air in the state. And that's based on an EPA measuring of the emissions. But there is no measurement of the pesticides that we see. So I really encourage you to find a way to fund proper air monitoring, particularly in the high population agricultural areas that are so exposed, as well as including more in your language in regards to the buffer zone around schools. Personally, I think it needs to be a mile, but what's going on right now is inadequate. I watch children, for instance, at McKinnon School in Salinas, that the fields that are being sprayed are literally feet from where they're playing in the playground. And that's not okay. That needs to be stopped. City planning needs to do better. That's not acceptable. So I would encourage you to include something in regards to air monitoring systems that are adequate, that really, truly will inform the public. Thank you.
Hello, I'm a student at Watsonville High School. My name is Jessica Gonzalez. My parents are immigrants and they come from Oaxaca. They came here to work, to find a job, and to feed us. Because many other immigrants here, like many of us too, we all come from immigrant family, and I'm sure that they come for a better life when they come to the United States. They came to feed us, they came to take care of us, and they came to protect us. And seeing how they're getting treated in the fields makes me mad, because they're the ones out there trying to feed us. They're feeding all of the United States and many other countries as well, and the pesticides are killing them. What can we do about that? We're trying to talk, we're trying to communicate with you guys, but you guys are like, what have you guys done? This is really disappointment to me, and as well as others, because we want to make awareness of people's health. We care about people's health, and we want to make change. We want to stand with our people and see what's right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Camila Torres, and I work with SASS, and I'm here to say that I agree with the youth, because for many years none of you guys have done anything to protect us or do anything. My parents are immigrants, and they come from Jalisco and Guadalajara, and my grandparents worked in the grapevines, and we had to come home to feed 7 children, including my mom. And it's just sad to say that you guys are here doing nothing and just hearing our comments when we need you to do something. In my school, we are literally next to a field, so like we could be spraying a bunch of pesticides. My brother got an asthma attack, and 10 of those were sprayed, and 7 of those went inside of him, and he went to the hospital with like very injuries. My mom was next to him, and she decided to work with pesticides. And now they're here, and we are here, and we need you to do something. If you don't do it, then please do it, because why are you going to be here listening to us if you're not going to do anything? Thank you.
Just a few things that didn't get covered, I want to make sure you hear. You have a DEI statement at the beginning of your plan, but it took legislation to get an environmental justice advisory committee as part of DPR. The deadline in that legislation is January 2026, but there's no reason why that committee can't be formed and get working sooner than that. We want it sooner. There's a lot in there about collaboration. But it's all those state agencies are not working well together. I think that there needs to be an overarching plan for the transformation of our agricultural system that includes all these different agencies that each have a piece of the pie, and you all need to work together. And then I just want to point out 2 dates that we have really reacted adversely to. One is in the Climate Action Scoping Plan, the deadlines for carbon neutrality, 2045, way too late. Sustainable Pest Management Roadmap sets the goal to get rid of the worst pesticides by 2050. So people might not know that, but that's too late. I know I probably won't be around for those goals, and I know our youth are impatient and they're not going to wait. Thank you.
Okay, I thought of that word that I was trying to remember to describe you good people, and I know you're good people, but it was procrastinators. And it takes one to know one, so I'm a big procrastinator. But you get paid for it, so you're professional procrastinators. I don't know who's influencing you, who's got the bug in your ear, but, and I know another woman, the regenerative farmer, mentioned job security. It's a hard thing to grapple with everything that you're hearing, and yet you're having these pressures on you, and I can appreciate that. And I just hope that when you go home tonight, you'll let a lot of what these people, these good people also, have said to you resonate with you. And talk about it, maybe at the family dinner with your loved ones. And I know you must be grappling with it because I can see that you're good people. I just wanted to tell you that. Thank you.
What I wanted to say is that I feel that it's very important to note that a lot of people here have given really good ideas, and we need to basically look at, you need to look at, scrapping the plan and moving forward with input from the people who are directly affected. The California economy rides on you making decisions that are going to bring us to a place that is sustainable, and that requires keeping farm workers safe and healthy. When you keep farm workers safe and healthy, then all the rest of the world is going to be safer and healthier. So it's in all our vested interest to make this change happen. And I appreciate that you have given us this opportunity to speak, but I think it is really important to note that it took us 6 hours to drive here, and you only have 2 times for people to speak. And it's easy enough to take our words and nod and smile, and then not act on them. Well, what would really need to happen is that you actually show that you've taken in this information truly by acting on it, by bringing some change, and not going ahead with a plan that is pitiful and ludicrous and insulting. I hate to be a downer, but that's the reality of it. So please do right by the people. Thank you.
So I left off on research and development and how important that is within this roadmap, because again, I want to reiterate that we can't spray our way out of a problem when you don't have these general pesticides that kill broad spectrum, right? Because that's what we're really addressing, are the broad spectrum pesticides that are indiscriminate in what they kill. So be it insecticide, they're going to kill all the insects, or herbicide, detrimental to the soils. So we need to get to a place where the research supports where we're talking soil health, that sequesters carbon, and encourages microbial health within the soil community, because then that signals the plant's internal defense mechanisms. Insectary habitat is critical to a system to support the beneficial insects that attack the detrimental insects and mites that are going after our crops. And then more research on different herbicides and the technologies that are out there. There's a lot of herbicide technologies and weed management technologies, but they're still not where they need to be. So there's still more research that needs to be done. But all of that needs to come together into a whole system R&D program. So where you're not looking at just one product to solve that one issue. Because with the softer pesticides, they're not going to solve those issues. It's a whole system. So we need state money to go to growers that supports them to run these larger whole system trials. So I just wanted to reiterate that that is really critical in trying to figure out these solutions, because we can't just say, you can't use it. We need to offer solutions to the growers. They've been used to this one system, so now let's offer them a new system. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't get to finish my thoughts earlier on data and on training healthcare providers to better assess for pesticide poisoning. But I just want to say that the lack of data transparency ultimately just feels really secretive. And switching gears, I just want to be clear that as a nurse, I wholeheartedly support that organic is the absolute standard. Like, we need to start there. As other people have mentioned, like, that we can do this. We know that we have the tools and the drive of all these organic farmers here in the room. And I just want to say that real sustainable pest management means using the least toxic options. And as others have mentioned, the reduction of toxic pesticide exposure to residents, to agricultural communities, there's co-benefits with health, but there's also benefits in the ability of soil to absorb and retain water, to decrease our reliance on fossil fuels, which we know are linked to pesticide production, and as well as create environments that minimize heat stress to workers and residents. So overall, we need to stop our reliance on pesticides, which are linked to fossil fuels, and know that there's co-benefits to both health and the environment. Thank you.
Earlier it was mentioned about the cocktail mix of pesticides, fumigants, and fungicides. I just wanted to remind you that I asked that question of our former Monterey County Ag Commissioner as to was there any data in regards to the science of how these chemicals combine and their toxicity, and it was blank stare. I asked the same question of California Department of Pesticide Regulations. Again, blank stare, no data. So I would like to have some answers. I think the public deserves to know, because at a typical application, there may be half a dozen or a dozen different chemicals that are combined, and yet no one has studied how those chemicals combine. That's kind of scary. And I'm reminded of when my mother gave me a quick chemistry solution that I should put baking soda down my stop sink. And so I did that, and I was impatient, and I didn't wait. And I threw in some plumber stuff, Drano, whatever, on top of it. And I literally created an explosion in my bathroom. So what is happening with these chemicals, and who has studied them? I encourage you to prioritize that in your plan as well.
My name is Rosie Ortiz, and I'm here to represent all those farm workers that work here in the agriculture industry. And I just want to mention, what are you going to do about all those people who are working in the agriculture and being exposed every single day with these pesticides and coming home with their children and having their children be also exposed to these pesticides? It's not fair for them, it's not fair for their parents. And we also want you guys to really consider our futures and consider those children who have been exposed to pesticides and have been born with different kinds of health problems because of pesticides. And thank you so much.
And I just have to say a few words. I've been working with farm workers now for over 25 years, and it's shocking to me how many cases of deformities, autism, ADHD, all these things that are related to pesticide exposure. And every time I meet a farm worker family, I think to myself, what am I going to find? It's always, it's so common that something will be wrong with some child. And the things I see the most often are bone cancer, also brain cancer, leukemia. In fact, a nurse once told me that in the pediatric oncology ward at Stanford, half those kids are from the Salinas Valley. Where is the outcry about this? Deformities. One farm worker child I met had no ear. Autism, ADHD, and you don't see this in North County. It's interesting. To me, it's a perfect example of environmental racism. You see it lots in South County, and if you walk around Santa Cruz and talk to people, you don't see much of it at all. And I think we need reform now, because the children are the ones that are suffering. They're dying of bone cancer. And if you could see the suffering of the parents as their kids are afflicted with these things, it's absolutely tragic. And I don't think there's any amount of wealth generation that can justify the suffering of these families, as if they didn't already have a difficult life in their poverty, and then to burden them this way. And the pesticide industries are interesting. They're skirting around it. For instance, glyphosate, Roundup, they've come up with a new kind of Roundup for recreational areas and for homes and residences.
I'm so sorry, your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, but I'm going to say that in the fields where the farm workers are, they have not changed the formula, and they're still exposed to pesticides, the same glyphosate. And if you get a chance, see the movie Into the Weeds. It's about a lawsuit against Bayer Monsanto for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and cancer caused by glyphosate. Thank you.
We have 2 more opportunities for you to offer comments. This coming Friday, November 3rd, 9:30 to 12 p.m. on Zoom. And we also have another meeting on November 6th, the same time, 4 to 6:30 in Tulare. The public comment period does go through November 10th. And Karen, do you want to capture what it was that you heard this evening?
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you all for coming for both the short drives and the long drives to be here. We know it's a commitment to be able to come and to be present and to be sharing your stories and your concerns and your acute sense of urgency for what comes next. And I really, really deeply appreciate you being here and for sharing these stories with us tonight. Talked about this as a summary, and I think it's hard to summarize an hour and a half of, I think, really valuable and important comments from all of you. Certainly, the importance of organic came through loud and clear, so that has been heard. Thank you for that. The concerns around health impacts and what that looks like, that it's not a tomorrow problem, it's not a 20 years from now problem, it's a today and yesterday problem. So thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely heard as a part of today's conversation. And also for some of the more specifics on details within the plan and what that looks like. We've been taking copious notes and are going to be looking at that. I want to talk about what next steps looks like for this. This is a draft specifically because we want feedback on what this looks like. So we have written papers in the back. If there's any kind of last thoughts that you have, please write them down. Please catch one of us afterwards. We're then going to be taking all of the comments received in these events, the virtual events that we're doing, the event in Tulare next week, to update and finalize the plan for what that looks like for directing our work. This is really intended to be what does our action plan look like for the coming 5 years to really direct how do we set ourselves up toward the mission and vision around sustainable pest management. So this will be this is one of several feedback sessions that we're having, and so we will take that back. But thank you all so much for being here. For those of you who are regularly engaged with the department, I appreciate you coming and continuing to share and push and ask the questions. And for those of you who I'm seeing for the first time today, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, and look forward to moving forward from here. Sherry, I'll hand it back to you.
So mine's just the simple thank you for the time and energy, the thoughtful responses that you offered here tonight. Hopefully we'll see you either online or in Tulare. That's it, thank you.